Okay, the red dots.
Can we go up?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
Or, I mean, higher?
I know what you're saying. Charlie, let's go to this one. It's not hiding your face yet. Should time hold and
That'd probably do it.
Sunset.
We don't see that here. This is the area where, oh, that's right there. Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to say that it's really a pleasure to be talking to family. And I've been part of this family for 20 years now. And it's one of my favorite groups to meet with. And I appreciate the warm welcome. I just want to give a shout out to my son-in-law, who's in the back. That's Kevin McKee. He's from Santa Barbara. And then a lot of you know, well, first of all, you know Bob. A lot of you know Bob Lewis. He's one of my go-to gurus for fixing my laptop. And then to his right is Miles Cooley. He is my great nephew, and his work is what you see partly here, and there'll be another wonderful animation that you'll see later on in my presentation. And then to Bob's left is Jim and Linda, and they are my next door neighbors. And I really appreciate you coming, provide your support. And so with that, oh, and also I want to shout out to Scott and Linda Deal in volunteering to, do you volunteer or do I volunteer you? But to video this presentation, and after some massaging later on, it'll become part of a presentation I want to share on YouTube with people away from here that need to hear, I think, about this proposal and give it some serious thought before they go on and do other things to try to salvage or make the Bay Area resilient to the anticipated effects of sea level rise that occurs over a long period of time. And that's why people sort of can always put it in the back saying, well, we don't want to talk about it right now, we got more pressing issues right now. But the thing is, as time goes on, some of those pressing issues that you put to the side become big problems when it's too late or much more difficult to solve. So my thrust is going to be to talk about the urgency of giving some serious consideration to what I'm about to share. Okay, Miles, and if you want to, you can go to another table if you want. And Bill, you can't see anything there, can you?
Yeah,
feel free to move around, and the rest of you, because otherwise you'll be missing out on some of what I'd like to show you. Okay, so what I've done is I have a new approach to an old issue, because actually the concern about the possible and ever-increasing effects of sea level rise has been around for a long time, but it's been sort of on a low ebb, and then it's sort of ramping up now. Like in the last 100 years, sea level rise has only gone up about 0.8 of a foot. And but it's anticipated, though, by 2050, which is only 25 years from now, it could be at least 3 feet and possibly, 1 foot or at least 3 feet. And that's with the current measurements that have been taken with ice melt, and of course with sea level rise itself, and the temperature of the ocean increasing ever so slightly. But it's amazing how much influence, not only on the weather, but on when you expand 5 miles deep of water a degree, there's a lot of expansion that occurs there. Okay, so that's something we need to bear in mind as why this is something that can likely be a big problem in the years to come. And so I would like to show you what my approach will be to getting this in front of people that are decision makers, particularly up in the Bay Area and at the state level. And hopefully, eventually, whatever comes out of this maybe, and along with my copy of my proposal, which I've made a few copies of it, any of you can have a set if you like, and take it with you. There's no commitment to it, but if you take it, I really would encourage you to read it, because I think you'd find that it is pretty thorough in covering lots that I will not be able to share tonight. Okay, now, talking about the increasing severity, the estimates by notable and credible engineers and scientists, environmentalists, they anticipate that maybe by the year 2100, which is only 75 years from now, the increase in sea level rise could be at least 4 or 5 feet, if not, and this is sort of almost a worst case scenario, but 9.5 feet, 292 centimeters. And if that were to happen, so much of the world would be inundated, because so much of the population of the world lives near sea level. And so if that gets affected that much, there's a lot of impact. So it's important that we plan. Well, a lot of the approach that's being taken in other places is pulling back development from the areas that are next to the coast and retreating the civilized or the developed areas. But I feel that, and I observe that San Francisco Bay has a unique opportunity to control their destiny with considerably less expense and anxiety and difficulty if they control it with a single point control, which not many places around the world could do that, because they all have the coastal frontage, even Santa Cruz. And but if you have a narrow neck, that like where the Golden Gate enters there, that is seems to be an ideal place. And so I've read commentaries by various people that say the idea of having a single point control, it's not a new one, so don't think you have something special to share. But everything I've read has always talked about trying to consider blocking sea level rise at the Golden Gate Bridge, where it's only a little over a mile wide. And it seems so obvious, you want to just work at the narrowest place. Well, at the narrowest place, it's over 317 feet deep. And when you restrict the area that narrow, the water that's going through there is high velocity. It goes very fast. It goes over about 5 to 6 miles an hour. And it makes construction very difficult to build something there, let alone the fact that you're building something that's going to be 317 feet from the floor of the entrance to the bay up to and then above sea level is it's mind-boggling. It really is basically not feasible. And I agree, their conclusion is it's not feasible. But what they have failed to do is to see the map like I have here in front of us, and you can look at it later on, but what you'll see if you come out from the, my pointer, I had a pointer. If you come out from the, I'll try to step aside here. If you come out from the bay, and this way, okay. If you come out from the bay, here's the Golden Gate Bridge where my finger is here, where these two markers are. And if you go 1.5 miles out to where my finger is now, where these red markers are, that spans a distance of about 2.43 miles. The lower end, the south end of it, is at Land's End Park. Are you familiar with Land's End Park in San Francisco? And yeah. There's also there's a place called Mile Rock that's right out off that point. It's that'd be the southern extension of my proposal. And the northern end of it would be at the Bonita Lighthouse, which is in the Marine Headlands area. And both those places, it comes up very abruptly with rock land. It's not like something on a road. And so the concept would be to connect to those 2 points with something that can be opened and closed. Well, you don't just open and close one gate to do something like that, but what I have come up with here, and my dear great nephew here has made this animation. I'll make it bigger here, and as you can see, these U-shaped items here, there are 27 of them in the whole span between those 2 points I described. There are 27 sets of retractable gates, retracting gates. They retract into what I call closets, and they telescope in, and then they come back out and they meet with a pointed area in the front. And I didn't bring I made an actual model of it also, showing how the gate operates, and it deploys from those closets, both from, you can see it retracting right here. He made it retracting, by the time we get around here, that's fully retracted. And they retract on the outside of the closets going one way, and on the inside going the other way, so that when they come together, it closes off the whole opening. That opening is 240 feet wide, which is wider than any ship on the ocean, with some room to spare. So there's plenty of room for navigation. And then the area where ships travel would be, you build the stem wall up to where the base of these sliding gates run on a rail, and there'd be plenty of room for the ships to get over that threshold. Now that would only be needed, though, for the first 3 feet of sea level rise, because if the worst happens at, say, 2050, you're 3 feet higher with sea level, these gates, you don't want to have the low tide even out to sea be 3 feet higher than what low tide is right now, because that would be, when high tide comes in, it's going to just wash everything out. So you need to cut off the flow of water into the bay permanently. And so what you do then is you close both sets of these gates. The reason why, when I call them sets, there's a front row and a back row of gates, and that is in interest of redundancy. Say if the front gate fails to operate, you want to be able to close the rear gate. But when the whole system gets closed off permanently, then you would have a gap between the two. If you close the gates, that would be filled with dredged material from the bottom of the bay. Yes?
Do these go all the way to the bottom?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And how deep is
I'll
it
show
at
you-
that point?
There's a wonderful animation showing how
Okay.
that gets connected to the bottom of the ocean.
And how deep is this part of the bay? Because the 350 is for
Oh, I
the.
didn't mention that
317.
this is only 135.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for asking. Yeah, that's the big difference. That's why
Yeah.
it makes this possible.
It's much
And,
so.
So,
That close-in area on the map, that's where it's 317, and that's why this,
Yes.
where the red ones is, you said 113?
135 feet.
135, thank you.
Yeah, that's the deepest. It gets shallower on the both sides.
So much more,
Yeah.
much easier to work.
And so the depth of the structures will be less and less and less as you get to the side, because it's not so deep to get to bedrock.
Yeah.
On top of this bedrock, though, there is a sand layer, which it drifts in and out with the tide, and it's been doing it for thousands of years, and it creates these ripples. It's sort of like I have another exhibit, but I'm not going to show it tonight, shows the ripples of sand on the bottom of the ocean, and that blanket of sand and gravel toward the deeper part is about 30 to 60 feet deep. In this area that I'm proposing, it's only about 30 feet deep. And that's why, but you still need to get through that to connect to the bottom of the ocean. Then that's where I would like to bring up, show you the exhibit that shows how we're going to connect to that. Let's see here, what are we going to do here?
When you say the bottom of the ocean, are you saying that's the bedrock, or?
Yeah, the bedrock. You can't connect to the sand, obviously, but,
Right.
and so you have to get through it and connect to the bottom. And you're not going to dig away all the sand and then build something on it. This here is, gets into that and into the bottom of the ocean, regardless of the sand.
So how deep do you have to go into the bedrock?
You have to go down like at the 135-foot depth, you'd have to go down to the 135 feet. But on top of that, those are 30 to 40 feet of sand. And so the water is not nearly that deep above it. But the sand is something that's, it's plus or minus, it changes all the time.
Once you hit the bedrock, how far into the bedrock do you have to
Okay,
go?
I'm proposing just for initial illustrative purposes that you go into the bedrock 10 to 15 feet. And that's, you get a pretty firm anchor. Engineers would take this into serious design would calculate really how deep you really need to go. But I would think that that is nominally where you would need to go, is about 10 to 15 feet. And there are many, many of these connections.
You
Yes,
said
Bob?
at some point you would have to permanently close the gates and just
Yes.
leave them that way?
When the sea level gets so high out in the ocean that you never want even the low tide to be that high inside the bay.
Sure.
What
Yeah.
about the effect on the ecology inside the bay once you?
Say again, a little louder.
That's a
Effective
good
what?
question.
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Wouldn't that shut up all shipping? Totally? If you close that off?
No, I didn't finish. There are a lot of amenities that I'll talk about.
Oh.
One of them is locks. You know, like the Panama Canal has locks.
Yes.
Well, there would just be one that would be a very large lock that a ship would come into, fill it up, and then take it out to sea, or vice versa coming in.
Got it.
And they would have at least two, and maybe even three. Might have two for great big ships, and maybe a smaller one for pleasure craft and smaller vessels. And then there's concern about wildlife, and so we want to take that into consideration. And so the fish wildlife primarily, and the plan is that there would be at least two, if not more, fish ladders of various sizes for various size aquatic life. Probably not to handle a whale or a dolphin, but other smaller fish life, and particularly salmon and others that need to spawn and get in and out. That would be facilitated by fish ladders. And then another one is concern of environmentally is that there's concern that you would make the whole bay a freshwater estuary.
Yeah.
And that affects the ecology of the whole area. Well, my plan has the ability to, I've shown it here on this map here, but it might be hard to see. There are silver lines. There's a silver line here, goes up the Sacramento River, and there's another silver line that goes down to the South Bay, maybe toward Emerville. And that would be a very large, maybe 5 foot or more diameter pipe that water would, there'd be a valve in the gate structure that would allow water to, by gravity, flow in to those two places, and you could regulate just how much of that salty water you want to have to create the salty balance that is optimal for the to maintain the ecology of the area. And but those long tubes, if you could visualize it, one would go around toward Alcatraz, but to the left of it, and then up the Sacramento River, and maybe as far as the Benicia Bridge, around that area. And they could regulate then the salinity of that whole ecosystem up there. And then down south, going down toward Emeryville, it would actually improve the water quality down there, because that's sort of like an appendix. It's sort of a dead area. It doesn't get much circulation. This water goes in and out, but it doesn't really circulate much. This would actually create the possibility of circulating water, so you have good ocean water that comes in there and keeps your salinity balanced the way you want to have it, and also has the water of a better quality. It's not just stagnant water. And so that's an amenity that could be added to this. The other would be these structures that you would install here. Each of these closets, you could, until the gates have to be closed, you could install on them vertical water, electrical generating water turbines that would spin with the tide going in, tide going out. So there's a terrific amount of energy that could be harvested with that. And not only would you could install them on these structures, but outside of this system, there also would have to be what's called, I think they call them guidons, or they're warning poles out to sea. So that ships come in, they have a warning you're coming to a structure and slow down. And of course, they already have the requirement in San Francisco Bay that any ship that comes in has to have a bar pilot, and they have to get on board out to sea, and they bring the ship in, so they would know where everything is, and vice versa. A ship leaving needs to have a bar pilot to go out, but still, you don't want to depend on that. You have to have warning poles distant from the structure so that it would provide plenty of warning. And then on those structures, though, they could put turbines on those too, because the water's going by there just as much. And and this is the more controversial part of it, but if the political will is that they want to generate some more electrical power, they could even install wind turbines on those structures. Mm-hmm. And they maybe put them on this, but they could put them on out to sea more, where the other warning posts would be installed. Let's see, now then we have, let's see, I've been more or less going on my memory what I wanted to tell you about.
Charlie?
Yeah, go ahead, you have a question?
How long would it take to build this?
Say again?
How long would it take to build this, to install it?
Oh, 10 to 20 years. Yeah. It'd be done in phases. You wouldn't build it all need to build it all at one time, so you don't have to spend much money at one time. Because my estimate, and it's just more or less a shoot from the hip, the estimate of the cost of the whole thing is about $4 billion. But that's cheap compared to what's being considered right now. They're planning to spend just that much alone to provide some protection to the 6 miles of the Embarcadero frontage of San Francisco, to raise buildings and do all kinds of heroic things to keep the sea out, and that'll only protect them from maybe a sea level rise of maybe 5 to 10 feet. Well, it's not, when we mentioned the year 2100 as being a target of possibly 9.5 feet of rise, that's the more extreme, that doesn't mean it's going to stop rising. It's potentially even go past that. Well past that, it could. It depends on whether we get a hold of ourselves and get better control of the climate, whether it's natural cause or whether it's man-made or a combination of both. There's a lot of science that needs to be done to take care of things in the future. But it could very well be considerably more even than 10 feet. And then just for kicks, I looked up from Siri, she knows everything. And I said, if all the glacier and ice cap were to melt, how much would the sea level rise? And you'd be astounded what the number is. 240 feet. That puts the Santa Cruz Cemetery underwater. What?
So the capacity for a water rise, what would this handle? What's the max capacity that your solution would handle?
With my plan, you would initially start, as I say, you build it in phases. You build these closets first, then you install the gates, and then whenever there's a high water event anticipated, you could close the gates in anticipation of that. Mm-hmm. And that could involve either a major storm or storm surge, or what else would create a need? Well, also, of course, you'd operate the gates
Rainfall.
just to
Yeah.
make sure that they operate every
Right.
month or two, you operate them.
But if you could do like, you say like maybe there's a maximum of like a 10 feet water rise in the next 20 years, what's the max that
Okay.
your solution could
What
handle?
what I'm proposing here would easily take care of a 10-foot rise. And even if there was a tsunami that would overrun that, that's not a problem, because a tsunami, it'd just wash over it, but it wouldn't fill up the whole bay, because it doesn't stay that long. It retreats. Tsunamis come, they flood, and then they retreat. Well, only so much water can get into the bay, it wouldn't fill it all up. Because in anticipation, if you have enough time, unless there's an earthquake right outside the Golden Gate Bridge, you would close the gates at low tide and trap the low tide. And trapping the low tide has other advantages too, which are immediate. And that is, many of the tributaries, not just the Sacramento River, but down in the Mission Bay area, there's the drainage system from San Francisco, South San Francisco and all around the bay, Palo Alto, and all around, the tributaries do not work well in a high tide. Particularly if it's a king tide, they would flood. And so this would allow you, in anticipation of any high water event, you could then, when let the water go out, the low tide, close the gates, that traps the low tide, and that gives you all that capacity in the bay to fill up during the next 4 hours until it starts going out again, and or 8 hours, yes. And so it has an immediate advantage, because right now they already do experience flooding. They experience flooding on the Embarcadero down in the lower area. I have pictures of the water splashing up on the sidewalk, and then also down in Emeryville and up in Sausalito, the streets by the harbor there, they flood, and the parking lot areas flood right now, and it'll only get worse.
Charlie?
Yes, Ron?
So, I'm not trying to be a naysayer, but I am having a question. So when you said that a tsunami would just wash over, the way a tsunami usually works is it pulls back.
Yeah.
So now the water will go way down on
Yeah.
the walls.
Yeah.
And then when it comes in, it will not exactly go over. It's going to come in with such a tremendous pressure
There is.
that maybe only the 10 feet or 15 feet into the bedrock is not, it might snap.
Oh, yeah, but of course, the thickness of these gates are 10 feet. The thickness is from this post to the front door. And,
Yeah, you're the brains that knows the depth.
what's that?
You're the one who knows what the strength has to be.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have intuition, put it that way, but I haven't done calculations for it. I'm working with the concept, and if it gets support to investigate, then engineers can put their slide rules to work. Well, that's what I'm thinking about when I took math. So there's a lot more I would like to cover, but I don't want to belabor this. But one thing that I really appreciate, though, is the fact that Scott and Linda filming this is going to allow an opportunity to maybe put something together, and that we can take even my exhibits that I had trouble making them work here tonight. Well, I didn't show you the best exhibit. Gee whiz, Miles would kill me for this if I didn't show it to you. This one here. This is beautiful.
As to your question, though, of how much height could it handle, Charlie, if the sea level rise exceeded, say, 10 feet, and 10 feet was all that this system was built up to at that time, couldn't it just be built up further with more of these bricks?
Exactly. It's like Legos.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can adjust it up.
This is what Miles just finished this morning, about 2:15 in the morning, and sent it to me. See what happens? Is it not running? I think running good. Here we go. So you have these sheet pile coming down, they interlock with each other. And then when you get to the next pylon, and that is there, and you bore down into the bedrock. Here goes the boring. This answers a lot of questions, I think, too. Here's a lot of boring here, and you pull the boring tool out. Of course, when it's doing that boring, it's flushing out all the fines that come out. Then you put the steel reinforcing cage into there, and then you pump it with the concrete all the way from the very bottom and displaces the water as it comes up and up near the top. And then comes the, so he didn't show, the first part, I'll show you when he added a second column to it. But they extend up. That's why these rebars are sticking out so that the next one up could overlap on it. And there we go. This is the second one here.
I see.
And then you fill that guy up.
Wow.
And then in between them, now watch this, you put 2 blocks down, you slide them down, they have holes in precast concrete structured, these wall elements, and stack them up.
Nice
And,
innovation, Miles.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah,
helpful
something.
to visualize it, no?
Yeah, I think it's really very,
So you
very
can
helpful.
adjust it, you can
Yes,
just go in and
Scott?
adjust it.
Yes, I have a question. You mentioned slide rules earlier. What are those?
Well, you're too young. I went all the way through engineering with the slide rule. Yes.
So as it became necessary, those blocks it was showing, you could just add new ones to the top?
Exactly,
And
yeah.
okay.
And of course, by that time, the stability will even be greater because the area in between is full of sand. It's not, it's not just gates. The gates have been permanently shut by that time. Yeah, Ken?
Hey, so Charlie, if we manage to save San Francisco Bay, what about Los Angeles Harbor, the largest harbor in the world?
They're
What about
SOL.
the East
To heck
Coast?
with
They're not our
They're
problem.
SOL. I'm just looking out for my friends.
It doesn't,
Do they have any sort of structure where you'd be able to do something?
country.
It is, they need
what
to.
do you mean SOL?
Well, I'm sure I'd like to.
But do they have
How wide is the
yeah.
mouth of the bay?
do they have a narrow opening that something like this would work?
I'm saying we have
I'm
enough.
saying, what good will it do to save San Francisco Bay if the rest of the world is turned to shit?
Well, why let San
If it's
Francisco
LA,
Bay-
There you go.
Just make, at least San Francisco Bay wouldn't have to take a dump.
We just need to make sure there's like 500
You can't boil
Charlies
the ocean,
designing
Ken.
these
Yeah.
for the
You
different.
can't
So I
boil
would
it,
not
you
be-
take care of it.
Ken, I don't think that's a reason for not doing it.
Global
There's
thinking,
gonna be-
local action.
Let's face it, when we get to a certain
Okay.
point, we're gonna be SOL.
And I'll be around, I'm not leaving anytime soon, so if you have any questions, and also, this is also, I didn't even talk about this, but that boring of the, that they're showing, where the drill bit went down, these columns that they're being, right there, they come down through a guide that's in a jig that's planted on the bottom of the bay, and by cranes that lower it down, and these jigs, if any of you work with jigs at all, they keep a constant dimension between holes, because you have to have that to make these precast pieces fit properly. And so this will do that. I can explain more of it if you'd like to have me hang around. and I'll talk about it.
How long have you worked on this?
It's approaching 4 years. I didn't build that 4 years ago. Built that about 3 months ago.
That's amazing.
But I did build my sample gate system, which I failed to bring with me. And I did that one about 2 years ago. Yeah.
When you're describing this, I feel like we're going to walk into water world in our future.
Well,
We will be here.
I hope to live long enough even to see the groundbreaking.
Yeah. Have you heard of any work being done like in Venice or in Rotterdam, those places?
It's of that magnitude, yes. Yeah.
Venice has a different gate
Yeah, it's
system.
different.
Yeah.
It's in place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it could be a model for other bay
This
communities.
is even more difficult to build than theirs. Yeah. They're not quite as steep, I don't think.
Charlie, I don't
It
want
could
to
be a model.
Thank you,
for
Charlie.
other bay communities. Unfortunately, every day, water is completely